All right, fantastic. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Brooke Berlin, and I oversee all of the sales and marketing for TransAfrica here in North America. And then joining me today is Carlotta Zanzotera. She oversees the Italian office. She does a lot of the itinerary building, costing, also leads tours herself. She's been with the team for quite a while. She has a degree in both philosophy and anthropology. Just a really fantastic woman all around. And then joining us from the Dakar office in Senegal, since today we're going to be speaking about Senegal, the Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau, is Francisca Gómez Molina. I was very lucky to meet Francisca in December when I myself was in Senegal and Guinea-Bissau, two really remarkable countries. Did not get to the Gambia though last year, so have something to return for. And Francisca has been with the team for about 6 years now. She lives in Dakar, but she has been living in Senegal for 17 years. So she knows the region incredibly well. She is a world traveler. She speaks multiple languages, and I'm really excited to have her join us today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over first to Carlotta, and then we'll hear from Francisca.
Yeah, thank you, Brooke, and thank you everyone for joining our third webinar about TransAfrica and West Africa. So as many of you have already attending our previous webinars, I'm not going to introduce TransAfrica once again, but instead I'm going directly to the topic of today's webinar, which is Senegal, the Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau. So where are these three countries located? As you can see it here on the map, Senegal is in the south of Mauritania, on the west of Mali, and in the north of Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. Then the Gambia is located within Senegal, and it divides Senegal into two parts, the northern part and the south part. And you will see how different these two parts are. And then Guinea-Bissau, it's in the south of Senegal and in the west of Guinea and in the north of Guinea. All the three countries face the Atlantic Ocean. So Senegal, the capital is Dakar. The language is French because it was a previous French colony, and it has a population of about 16 million people. To travel to Senegal, US citizens do not need a visa, and the currency is the franc CFA. Yellow fever is mandatory, but it is lifeline, which means that it doesn't matter when you took the vax, it is still valid, so you don't have to retake it again. Malaria prophylaxis is not mandatory, but we highly recommend it. Now, the Gambia, as I said previously, it is located within Senegal and it runs along the river Gambia. The capital is Banjul. The language is English because it was a former English colony, and it has a population of more than 2 million people. To travel to the Gambia, US citizens require a visa, which can be obtained either at the embassy in Washington, D.C., or at the border, of course, the Gambian embassy. The currency is the Gambian dalasi, and same as Senegal, yellow fever is mandatory, and malaria prophylaxis highly recommended. Last, Guinea-Bissau. So the capital is Bissau. The language is Portuguese. They also speak Creole, which is a mix of Portuguese and local language. It has a population of 1,008,000 people. And to travel to Guinea-Bissau, US citizens need a visa, which can be obtained either at the Embassy of Guinea-Bissau in US or at the border. The currency is again franc CFA. And again, yellow fever is mandatory and malaria prophylaxis is highly recommended. Now, today Francisca will show you an itinerary that starts from in Dakar and goes all the way down to Bissau, so from north to south. But of course, traveling in one country at a time or do a combination of both is of course possible, and it's as nice as traveling across the 3 countries. In fact, all our trips are a mix of 3 things: culture, history, and nature. So for the sake of today's webinar, I'm going to talk about these 2 things related to the itinerary that Francisca will show you today. So talking about culture, you will meet a peaceful African form of Islam in the north of Senegal. So you will meet, for instance, the largest religious brotherhood in Touba. And then when you go all the way to the South Senegal and into Guinea-Bissau, you will meet animistic religions. So from a peaceful form of Islam to animistic religions. And when we talk about animistic religions, we talk about tribal kings, tribal dancing masks, and rituals. And the same can be said about art. So you will meet, or you will have the chance to meet the contemporary art in Dakar, which is the place of this super vibrant community of artists. And then when you go all the way to the south, you will meet tribal art in its context. So not in the museum, but in its real context. Talking about history, all 3 countries have historical places, like Saint Louis in Senegal, which is the first capital of the former French West Africa, or Gorée, which is a former slave trade island, and Bolama, the ancient capital lost in the forest of Guinea-Bissau. Talking about history, you will also have the chance to meet timeless people. So to say, those people who seem to be stuck somewhere in the past, like nomadic herders or animistic tribes in Casamance, which is the southeast part of Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau. Last but not least, nature. So traveling through these 3 countries means traveling through a spectacular variety of environments, from the desert to the savanna, to the forest, to the ocean, and to the islands. Those of you who are into bird watching might know that this is also the route of migratory birds, which will be a constant presence along the whole journey. And then we have the Bijagos Islands. Those are located within the biggest or the largest archipelago of West Africa. And it is by UNESCO Biosphere. So you will be amazed by the beauty of its beaches, the landscapes, and the culture. Now I leave the stage to Francisca, who will take you to this amazing trip.
Okay, thank you, Carlota. So I will take you through an itinerary from north to south, crossing these 3 countries. We start the visit in Dakar, the capital and main town in Senegal. And when we talk of Dakar, we talk of colonial architecture, markets, art, live music, and much more. The first president of Senegal after the independence was Léopold Senghor, a politician, a poet, and a writer. And he made of Dakar the center of a political, artistic, and intellectual post-independence renewal. Today, Dakar has become the cultural capital of West Africa, a melting pot of painters and artists from the whole continent. A must in Dakar during the weekends is the live music in the many African clubs. In Dakar, apart from visiting markets and the town itself, it is interesting to take the pulse to the many art galleries. An special event in Dakar that takes place every 2 years is the Biennale of African Art, that actually should have taken place this year. It started in 2010, and since then, every 2 years, always in May, Dakar becomes the meeting point for international and local artists. This year, as you all can imagine, has been cancelled. Then we go to Gorée, that is only 20 minutes in ferry from Dakar. Gorée, located in the westernmost point of the continent, is the island where slaves coming from all Africa used to be cramped and then shipped to the Americas. Thanks to the closeness to Dakar, to a very nice climate, the Asian architecture, and the many restaurants and boutiques today, Gorée is a very pleasant and trendy spot. With a population of 2,000 inhabitants, there are just a few hotels, and we are the only ones to spend one night in Gorée. In the afternoon, in the same ferry that takes us to the island, all the tourists go back to Dakar, and then we enjoy the silence and mystery of the island in solitude. Then we continue to Lac Rose, Pink Lake, only 1 hour from Dakar. Lac Rose is separated only by some narrow dunes from the Atlantic Ocean, and it has a very high salt content similar of that of the Dead Sea. The pink color is caused by the bacteria salina, which is attracted by the lake's salt content. The bacteria produces a red pigment that absorbs the sunlight, giving the lake this unique color. The lake is especially pink during the dry season, which means from November to June. The main activity by the locals in the lake is the salt extraction. From the Lac Rose, we drive along the coast to visit the largest fisherman village in Senegal, Kayar. The main activity in Kayar is the artisanal fishing. Every evening, hundreds of pirogues unload tons of fish on the beach. Each pirogue belongs to a different family and has its own colors and motifs. In Kayar, everyone is busy. Fishermen going to the sea, young people unloading fish from the boats, women selling the fish, people repairing and painting the pirogues. For us, we will stop to visit the marabout that bless the pirogues before they leave for the sea. From there, we continue to Lampul, a small desert of about 11 square miles located at the south of St. Louis. With orange sand dunes, it is an amazing landscape, more similar to the landscape of the Sahara and Mauritania than to the surrounding areas of Senegal. From Lampul, we continue and we finally arrived to St. Louis, located in the northwest of Senegal. St. Louis was the capital of the French colony of Senegal and of the French West Africa until 1902, when the capital was moved to Dakar. St. Louis has an amazing location. It is situated in an island near the mouth of the Senegal River and is separated from the ocean by a strip of land, La Langue de Barbarie. It was declared an UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2000 due to its characteristic colonial architecture and to its particular location between ocean and river. We will visit the town in Calèche. It is an amazing and interesting stroll in the island and the fishermen village on the Langue de Barbarie. Every year there is an important event in St. Louis, the Jazz Festival. Started in 1993, the International Jazz Festival of St. Louis is now one of the most important international jazz events. It usually takes place at the end of May, when St. Louis becomes a meeting point for jazz lovers. This year also it has been cancelled. Jewish National Bird Sanctuary. Finally, the next day we arrived to the Jewish National Bird Sanctuary. It is on the northern tip of the country, near the Mauritanian border. It is a paradise for migratory birds and the third ornithology reserve in the world. Jewish is a wetland. It's a wetland oasis for wildlife. In winter, 1.5 million birds migrate to the area to stay warm and take advantage of the abundant food supply. A mind-blowing destination to see them. There are approximately 400 species of birds documented in this unique sanctuary. In fact, it was labeled an UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1981. Huge national bird sanctuary is mainly populated by pelicans and flamingos. From there, we start going south, and we stop in the arid region of the Ferlo Desert, where we visit the nomadic Fulani tribes, the largest group of nomads in West Africa savannas. The Fulani live in vast area from Senegal to Chad. The Fulani are originally a pastoral people, but nowadays many of them have sedentarized, although the pastoral Fulani continue to be more truly representative of the Fulani culture. The urban Fulani are the most ardently Muslim, while pastoral Fulani are frequently lax and sometimes even non-practicing. Their origins are still covered with mystery, but they all share a common and aristocratic cult for beauty and elegance. The Fulani nomads wander in nomadic groups, making temporary camps of huts. Some of their dairy products are exchanged at markets for cereal foods. Cattle are rarely killed for meat. We visit the group of nomads in the Ferlo region and interact with them. Usually, and if men as chefs of the families are there, we will be invited to sit with them to share tea. Then we keep on going south and we stop at Touba, the center of the Muridism, a Sufi brotherhood with a peaceful and African vision of Islam, and a bastion that protects Senegal from radical Islam. At the heart of the Murid's holy city lies its great mosque, one of the largest in Africa, with a capacity of 7,000 people. The great mosque of Touba was founded by Amadou Bamba in 1887 and completed in 1963. But since then, it is continually being enlarged and renovated thanks to the contributions by the artists around the world. It is the site of a pilgrimage, the Grand Magal of Touba. It is to say that the Muridi have a large and social impact in Senegal. Going south, we stop to visit the megaliths. The megaliths are human-built fissures made of large stones. They are found in different parts of the world, and there are important concentrations in North Tropical Africa. We visit the Senegambian site that, according to UNESCO, are the largest concentration of stone cycles seen anywhere in the world. These sites in Gambia and in Senegal represent an extraordinary concentration of more than 1,000 stone circles spread over a territory of 62 miles wide in length along the river Gambia. Going still south, we cross the border and we arrive to the Gambia, the smallest country within mainland Africa. As Carlota told you before, Gambia is situated on both sides of the Gambia River, which flows through the country and empties into the Atlantic Ocean. It is almost entirely surrounded by Senegal, with a section of its western coastline along the Atlantic Ocean that separate the north of Senegal, mainly Muslim, from the south of Senegal, animistic and Catholic. In Banjul, the capital of Gambia and a tiny town in a peninsula, we visit the National Museum, colorful markets, and we enjoy an interesting bird watching. Always in Gambia, we assist to the dance of the masked Mandinga, the Kankoran. Fortunately, some African people have preserved ancestral customs, and Kankoran is one of them. For the Mandingan people, the Kankoran lives in the sacred wood and only comes out to protect the initiated during the process of circumcision, a crucial step in the life of every African. More than a human, the Kankoran is a protective spirit, and it protects the young boys from evil spirits during rituals accompanied by songs and initiatory rites. The ritual also ensures the transmission and teaching of complex know-how and practices that are the base of the Mandinga cultural identity. The Kankoran wears a mask made of the bark of and red fiber of a tree and is clothed in leaves. His body is painted with vegetables dye. When the Kankoran comes out, the whole village follows the mask. Then, always going south, we cross the Gambia. We cross the border from Gambia, Senegal, and we arrive again to Senegal, the south part of Senegal, and more specifically to the Casamance, the most animistic region of Senegal. The most important ethnic in this region are the Diola, but we can also find the Diolas in Gambia and north of Guinea-Bissau. One of the highlights of the tour is the ritual dance of the Kumpo, a sacred mask rarely shown to the foreigners in their own villages. This mask belongs to a secret society, and according to the tradition, the Kumpo is not a person but a spirit, and so it is the spirit that animates the mask, and the identity of the dancer is never revealed. The Kumpo is dressed with palm leaves and wears stick on the head. It is the guarantor of order and justice, and it is called by the villagers every time they need a mystical answer to a problem. He speaks a private secret language and communicates through an interpreter. The Kumpo is always accompanied by Samai, a mask that has only one arm, carries always a stick, and is the one that brings order. The whole village participates to this dance. Always in the Diola area, and before talking about the king, just a few words about the Diola people. It is a people at once warrior and peaceful, open-minded, working to safeguard their culture and traditional values. No people have succeeded in colonizing completely the Diola. We drive to a hidden village where we will be received by the king of a Diola kingdom. He is always dressed in red, carries a broom of straws of bamboo as a symbol of power and peace, and he will receive us sitting on a stool as a symbol of modesty. He is the highest priest among the animists and holds both political and mystical powers. His main role is to maintain and pray for peace and social coherence. He must be king until he dies, living in the forest. He will receive us in his palace, in the forest, and after the protocol salutations, he will answer our question on the traditional roots of the Diola society. Always going south, we cross the border Senegal-Bissau. In Guinea-Bissau, we will visit different tribes, the Felup, the Pepel, Manjaco, and the Villagos. Now we'll talk about the Manjaco. The Manjaco is an important ethnic group in the south of Guinea-Bissau. To talk of the Manjaco, we must remind the very important place that occupies the ancestor among Africans. In fact, the ancestors protect family integrity and customs. Among the Manjaco, each family concession has space dedicated to the Balogun, the ancestors, where each ancestor is represented by a wooden stake called pickup, more or less anthropomorphic. This altar is the place of reference for the family meeting, but also a central ceremonial place and the pivot of the social life. Apart from the frequent prayers addressed to the ancestor, a real dialogue is maintained with them. They are consulted in case of problems and are informed of family events, and they are offered gifts, alcohol, and also meals. Thanks to the strong presence of TransAfrica on the field, we have the chance to visit African tribal art in its real context, the sacred forest. And we are admitted to ceremonial sites with the traditional chefs. Then we arrived to Bissau. Okay, let's say in Guinea-Bissau, the country was part of the Portuguese Empire for centuries. Once a potential model for African development, now the country is one of the poorest in the world. As for the economy, nowadays, the cashew nut crops allows a modest living for most of Guinea-Bissau farmers, and is the main source for foreign exchange. Today, the country has a massive foreign debt and an economy that relies heavily on foreign aid. We will visit a town, especially the ancient Cartier. After visiting Bissau, we spent a few days in the Villagos archipelago, located an average of 40 miles offshore. Villagos is the largest archipelago in Africa, with 88 islands, of which only 21 permanently inhabited. There is a great high diversity of ecosystems: mangroves, palm forests, dry and semi-dry forests, coastal savanna, sandbanks, and aquatic zones. And as for the culture, due to the difficulties of communication with mainland Guinea-Bissau that persist to this day, the ancestral culture has been protected from the outside influences. The ethnic group in the archipelago is the Bissagos. Bissago culture tends to be matriarchal, with women managing the household, the economy, and law. The archipelago was declared an UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in 1996, and among the animals in the archipelago, there are marine turtles and hippopotamus. We could describe Villagos archipelago as a geographical jewel. Bolama is the closest, then we keep on, we stop at Bolama, the island of Bolama. Bolama is the closest island of the archipelago to the mainland of Guinea-Bissau. Bolama was the former capital of the Portuguese Guinea from 1871 to 1941, before it was moved to Bissau due to a lack of water. In the past, a lively capital town, now is plunged in the fairy tale atmosphere of a ghost town. We will stroll along lethargic avenues, empty squares, and dry fountains, remembrance of better past time. We can still see the governor's palace with its classic columns, as well as administrative buildings in Neo-Palladian style, now all falling apart. The most spectacular Villago mask is the Bacabruto, wild bull. A wooden helmet with eyes of frosted glass, real horns, leather ears, and a rope through the nostril. The masks represent a man in full possession of his physical strength, but still with an immature behavior, as he has not yet undergone the final initiations. During the Bacabruto dance, the masks embody the spirit of the mask. They bow and face the ground like a real untamed animal will do. Before being used, these masks are consecrated in secret ceremonies. All the villagers attend this fascinating and amazing ceremony. In the further southern island of the archipelago, Poilau, we assist to the turtle nesting. Poilau is an uninhabited island and the nesting site for the green sea turtle in West Africa. In the evening, at dark, in silence on the beach, we assist to the magic moment when females emerge from the ocean to dig deep holes in the sand and lay 100 or more eggs. Or we see the tiny turtles that emerge from the sand and they run to the ocean to start a long journey. One curiosity, these same tiny turtles come back to the same island 30 years later, when they reach sexual maturity and they start a new circle, digging holes and laying eggs. Really amazing. So this is the tour. I leave you now with Carlota that will keep telling you about hotels.
Yeah, so great experiences with great hotels. So as a general rule in West Africa, as you might know by now, there are 5-star hotels and boutique hotels in the main cities, which are generally on the coast. And inland, we make use of the best hotels available. Usually there are 3 or 4-star hotels with Wi-Fi, air conditions, and private facilities. Because in West Africa, the real luxury is the experience. For those of your clients who want to spend the night in the desert, we make use of a tent camp, like you see it here, down here. The tents are comfortable and they are equipped with beds, mosquito nets, and facilities. For those who want to spend 1 or more nights on the Bijago Islands, we make use of the best resource of the archipelago. Sorry. As you can see it down here in the picture, it has comfortable bungalows facing the ocean. And as you can see it here, it has also a nice swimming pool facing the ocean. It has also 2 restaurants that offer fusion cuisine and traditional food. Actually, all our hotels offer fusion cuisine and traditional food to meet the taste of everyone. Now, talking about vehicles. So each vehicle is chosen to optimize the different geographical and cultural environments, and of course have fun. On the land, we make use of 4-wheel drives. And if there are groups who don't want to travel apart, we can offer microbus or minibus. So microbus are meant for 7 people and minibuses are meant for 16 people max. On the ocean and lagoons, we make use of modern speedboats like the one you see in the picture. To end, what makes TransAfrica different? So I've already talked about our passion, about the fact that we are the specialists and social sustainability. Today, I want to spend few words on honesty and safety. So talking about honesty, all our prices are net, so the travel agent can charge their own fees. And the prices always come with a clear list of what is included and what is not included. And this is to avoid unpleasant surprises for you. And then safety. I know that most of the people wonder if traveling in West Africa is safe. I can tell it's safe, but most of all, safety is our main concern. And we strongly believe that the safety of our clients and of our staff must be assured in any possible ways. So how do we do that? We keep monitoring the website of the Foreign Ministers Affairs to see if there are any warnings. And we are constantly in touch with our local guides who live and travels within the regions, so they know before anyone else if there is a suspicious situation that might lead to a change in the itinerary or to a suspension of the itinerary. And as the real end, what we offer 30 years of experience on the field, continuous scouting, local guides who best know the local communities and have access to any villages, and multidisciplinary staff in the offices. And with this, I'm really done.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much, Carlotta. Oh, great. That's what I was going to ask for, is the map again, because we've already had a question about the map. So while some more questions come in, we have a few, I'll get to them in a second. I just wanted to kind of go off of what was said already with just my own experience. The first time that I went to Benin, Togo, and Ghana, somebody actually said to me, could you do this as a self-drive yourself? And I said, absolutely not. Having access to these cultural experiences and these villages is something that even people within the country can't necessarily get access to. And it's because of Francisca, actually, that TransAfrica has access to this particular community in the Casamance region, where I saw the Kumpo this past December. And I mean, I've been very blessed to travel around the world. I've seen some very interesting cultural experiences, including the Omo. I have seen nothing like the Kumpo. It is absolutely extraordinarily magical. It just completely shatters any kind of sense of normalcy that we have in our minds. But with that, for those of you especially that know me very well, my love and passion, kind of like Carlotta with anthropology, mine is cultural anthropology. It's the living modern day. And again, I say that because of what Francisca was able to offer to Johan and I when we were in Dakar. We arrived, I think we had a list 2 days long just of galleries and designers that we wanted to meet with. And then Francisca said, well, you know what, I also know about this person, or I can get you access to this. She got Johan access to an art opening that he would have never even known about. Within 1 day, we had tickets to see Baba Mall live. We met with artists. We had clothing made. He actually had a jacket tailored to him. So again, those are the things that I think really you cannot possibly do West Africa without the assistance of the people on the ground as a part of the TransAfrica team. And then just, I'm going to mention one other thing before I start asking questions, is that things like when Francisco was talking about Guinea-Bissau, which again, I got to go out to the Bijagos Islands, and wow, it was one of the most amazing experiences that I had. For your foodies, right? We talked about the cuisine in West Africa. This is the first time in my life I've had fresh mangrove oysters. I mean, the influence of the Portuguese and the French combined with the spices and the history of West Africa, really, truly, they can put together any experience for your clients when they're coming to West Africa with the kind of basis of the itinerary and beyond. And Senegal is especially important, I think, for us in, I'm going to say, the North American market, because last year, Senegal was on, I think, the cover of every single travel publication we would have read. Dakar was the design capital of the world. There's a brand new museum that was built in the city. It's just such a remarkable city, especially Dakar, for what is happening in West Africa now. So with my little 2 cents in there, I'm going to start with a couple of the questions that we've had. And I like this first one because it does speak about Dakar. Is it possible for people taking the SAA flight via Dakar to disembark? We've had a lot of people that take that flight, but no one has disembarked. So outside of the fact that I don't think many of us really know what's going on with SAA right now, I'm going to have Francisca or Carlotta speak about the process of disembarkation, no matter what flight routing you might be taking.
Dakar now it's an international airport, and our flights coming all over the world. If not, I think it's not a problem, huh? Carlotta?
No, me neither.
It's just not like, some of those layovers and stopovers, for instance, going through Iceland. There's not a program where you'll be hosted or things will be seamless and smooth, but we have worked before, and when I say that, I mean from the airline, not from us. We have worked before with people, specifically, I know, coming back from Johannesburg through Accra, that decided to get off and just spend 4 or 5 days in Accra. And similarly, I think any of those capital cities that people want to disembark and spend even just a couple of days, we could put together a really good, robust experience in the city. We were asked for the map, so I'm happy that you think that this is fantastic. I think that it is too. And then there was another question about the accommodation in terms of what types of travelers are these places suited toward. And I also really liked that Carlotta spoke about the continuous scouting, because same thing, when I went to Senegal last year, for instance, I went to them and said, I want to go and see this hotel that I've read about, or this hotel that, you know, I know someone who stayed in. So we are constantly, whether it's myself or the team on the ground, looking for other options. So with that, one of my favorite hotels in Dakar is called Sekou Bay. It is a very small boutique hotel. It's about 7 or 9 rooms, definitely more difficult to book for a group. It's because it's so small. But for North Americans looking for a boutique experience, it is absolutely extraordinary. And then it's right next to a hotel called Pullman, which again, for me, was my favorite. It's got a great art collection, really wonderful food, great location. In Guinea-Bissau, in Bissau, I went and I actually spent Christmas Eve at the Cebu Hotel. Just as a day room before heading out on my flight. And that's easily the most 5-star hotel in Bissau that I would tell any of us to look at putting our clients in. So to reiterate what Carlotta said, there are definitely 5-star boutique, interesting hotels in the cities. And then as you go further inland, it's a matter of having that conversation, especially with Carlotta and Francisca, seeing the hotels, making sure that they're going to work for your clients.
Exactly.
Okay, so then 2 different questions, speaking specifically about the infrastructure outside of the hotels in the cities that I've spoken of, and that would then end up being, what about the roads for driving, an approximate time between the different destinations? So infrastructure and drive timing.
So roads in Dakar, in Senegal in general, are quite good. I would say fantastic. In the north of Senegal, we have highways, and south. The only problem is Guinea-Bissau. Even in Gambia, routes are good. Only problem about routes is Guinea-Bissau. Going especially from South Casamance to Bissau, routes are not so good. And times it's longer time in the north of Senegal. In South Senegal, it's short time. Just from Dakar to San Luis, the longest time, the longer drive.
And so everyone knows as well, when an itinerary is put together by TransAfrica, and I have some of them that have been put together for me, the itineraries include things like that, so that when you get that proposal from Carlotta, it might say something like 6 hours of drive time today, but it doesn't mean that you're in the car driving for 6 hours straight, because the guides are always going to stop and look at something on the road or take you into another building, or maybe a ceremony is going on. So they'll let you know what the driving is estimated for that day, but just so you know, you're not just sitting in the vehicle for that time. It's just that that's how much it's going to take to get from A to B with things that are going on.
Yes, we keep on stopping on the way. We keep on stopping whenever there is something interesting, whenever there is a need to stop. Yes.
And then also, I just want to quickly talk about the, we'll say, infrastructure or transfer times in Guinea-Bissau specifically, because, you know, we had a comment about just how fantastic looking Guinea-Bissau is, which I agree. But please keep in mind, the Bijagos archipelago is about 40 miles into the Atlantic Ocean from the coastline. And to get there, you are on that speedboat that Carlotta showed you. And then once you get to the island where you're going to be staying, at that beautiful, you know, French bungalow resort that I was able to stay in, to get to all of the islands and the festivals that she was speaking about, you're also on a speedboat. And because the tidal fluctuations are so extreme, to get from the coast to the islands, it could take you anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. So you and your clients have to be prepared for a boat journey to get out to the Bijagos. How is the cost of traveling compared to doing a safari in Eastern or Southern Africa?
Well, it depends. I really cannot tell, because one thing is that West Africa is expensive. On average, is less expensive than a safari in South Africa or Tanzania or Kenya or surely Botswana. So, but it is expensive, especially the hotels are expensive. So I always say to my clients, don't expect to pay little money for the hotels just because you are in Africa. Doesn't work like that, okay? And of course, the more luxury you're looking for, the more money you should be willing to spend. But this being said, if we want to make a comparison, traveling in West Africa is less expensive than doing a safari in Botswana or South Africa.
What I tend to say, so first of all, if you go to the TransAfrica website, all of the set departure itineraries that they offer have baseline pricing. So that kind of starts to let you have a feel for what a standard itinerary for a group would be. And then you can kind of extrapolate from there and go, okay, well, now if I'm doing this on an FIT basis, so I need my own vehicle, or I want to have a better hotel, then it's going to go up. But my kind of generalization, because we've had this question about hotels a lot. Yes, if you are the sort who sends clients to the 5-star experiences in Eastern and Southern Africa, then West Africa is less expensive, for sure. There's 2 things to keep in mind. As Carlotta was saying with the hotels, think about booking a 5-star hotel in New York, Toronto, London. It is around that price point because they cater mostly to business travelers, oil and gas, politicians. They even, have a hard time. Like when I come to the table and say, well, I'm in the industry, I want to do site inspections. I mean, there were times that they didn't know why I was doing site inspections of hotels. And getting agent rates as well for educationals was also like, well, we don't do educationals. So they're definitely a little behind when we look at Eastern or Southern Africa. And then the other thing is, keep in mind that in especially West Africa, one of the ways that governments can get money is by taxing. And what can they tax? Imports. So even though in Guinea-Bissau, which is, Francisco was saying is like one of the poorest countries, once we got out to the islands, I mean, one of the things that they can tax is wine. So I was probably with Johan, we were probably spending between $20 and $30 on a decent bottle of wine. I mean, nothing to write home about that I would expect to spend that kind of money on here in the States. So you're going to see things like higher price points on your alcohol that's imported and anything else really that is imported.
Yeah.
Do you want to, please?
No, I agree.
Recommendations of books for an overview of the region or the country. I think maybe we can follow up if people don't have something that comes to mind right away. I know we're always asked for books and recommendations on things to read.
Oh, wow.
Trying to think. If I go back into my trip report, I'm pretty certain that I've come up with a book or 2 that were recommended to us that we read or listened to on Audible, because I'm always searching for things like that myself.
We can have a look. We can send it to you, Brooke. We can send you recommendations. Perfect. And then you can send it to the person who asked for will make you a list.
I think I did a newsletter about 3 weeks ago that had a reading list, and I asked Carlotta for a couple in that as well. They're just not coming in front of mind for me right now. Is there an average cost per day? I want to at least address that, but I think that it really is kind of, to Carlotta's point, a little bit more depending on what sort of traveler and what group size and what you're looking to get out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want I can say something between 200 and 300 euro per day, but it really depends on the kind of hotels, on the size of the group, and on the vehicles you're looking for. It really depends, but yeah, on average, it's something between 200 euro and 300 euro per day.
And actually, Carlotta, will you address why TransAfrica costs in euro for almost every single itinerary and destination in West Africa, with the exception if there is a Ghana-specific itinerary that is only Ghana, it is possible then to quote in dollar. But outside of that, do you want to just address that? Because that's a question I get asked often.
Yeah, okay. To make a long story short, we quote in euro because euro has a fixed exchange with the local currency. So 1 euro is always 655 francs CFA. So it doesn't go up and down with the fluctuation of the market. So it has always a fixed rate and a fixed exchange rate. I don't know if I made myself clear.
And then actually, so Alberto has let us know, and he is right, he's correcting me. When I spoke about the fact that you have to take a boat to get out to the archipelago, there is the possibility of chartering a 3-passenger small aircraft from Bissau to Bijagos. Then it becomes about a 15-minute flight to Boubaké Island. Though again, once you get to Boubaké, then you are back on a speedboat to get to the different islands. So if you have a booking of 2 or 3 and you want to charter the flight instead of taking the boat, that is a possibility.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic flight.
And then we have a note as well that I like how none of us can come up with notes off the top of our head, but one of our attendees has reminded us as well that there's a list of books on the TransAfrica website.
Good, fantastic.
Process of redoing that website as well, so a new website will be up at some point.
Yeah.
And she herself, and I know this attendee who used to live in West Africa, thinks that the book Travels with My Briefcase is hilarious. So we'll call that one out as well. I don't see any more questions, so if we don't have any more questions, then the 3 of us will say thank you so much for everyone who joined us today. Like the other
one, thank you, dear.
Recorded and posted, and yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, and see you soon in West Africa.
And
see you soon in West Africa. We're waiting for you.
With Roberto to go over Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.